pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now call February 6, 2020 Village Board meeting to order. Roll call shows Dan and Peter are excused. Everyone else is in attendance. Number 3, agenda changes. There are none. 4, consent agenda. A, January 16th, 2020 regular board meeting minutes. B, January 16th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. C, January 16th, 2020 Committee of the Whole closed session meeting minutes. D, licenses and permits. Operator licenses. 1, Alicia L. Cameron, Hog Haven. Change of agent, Quick Trip. 1, Stephen Brown. Licenses and permits recommended for denial by Police Department. 1, Cornelius M. Charles. E, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. Are there any questions? If not, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll. Shauna?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Pat? Aye.
Sorry. She can't hear.
Pre-registered citizens to be heard.
None.
Number 6, committee reports. A, library board.
Can you hear me? I appreciate your patience because I can't hear. So, Ally's going to report on staff changes, but we had a personnel meeting on the 28th, followed by a full library board meeting to discuss the staffing. Our next meeting is Tuesday, February 11th, and we'll work on the annual report, or look at the annual report. That's all I have.
Number 7, unfinished business from previous meeting. There is none. 8, new business. A, parking discussion, Black Otter Supper Club. Jim? do you
So,
wanna-
Jerry Guyette was going to attend, but she's sick, just like Pat. So, she was unable to attend, and Bob coaches basketball, so he can't. I asked him if there was anything they wanted said. Bob sent me a message, and I will read it verbatim. It says the only thing she said was that cops were giving parking tickets after a snowstorm when the driveway wasn't even plowed. You can't see the yellow painted curb that was apparently important in the summer. She said the cop told the customers that we know about the parking problem and we are doing nothing about it. So we are wondering what we're supposed to do about it. From my discussions with Bob and with Jerry, they don't feel it's really their responsibility. The customers parking in violation is not really their responsibility. They don't think they should be doing anything about it, as far as Bob anyway. But they do, as business owners, catch the other end of it from their customers. And as Christine can probably attest, the one big complaint that we had, they got, the woman wasn't very cordial. And it doesn't sound like she was extremely cordial to Bob and Jerry either, so they're catching a lot of flack on their end. And I think they're just looking to have their concerns addressed, if there's anything else that can be done. If there's anything that should be done.
Can I speak on that?
You
As
absolutely
Public
can.
Works, it's my understanding there was only one ticket written because of parking. And it was to some person who blocked the driveway. I don't know why.
And it was an apron of a plowed driveway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Why
she,
are we
she
even
kept
having this
insisting
discussion?
that, she kept insisting that we ticketed her for them parking across Just a driveway that wasn't even cleared out. We explained to her that she did also do that because there was a car that was in the driveway for an elderly couple, but the main concern, she didn't want to hear any part of it. So it's unfortunate that.
Yeah.
And without yellow lines, don't we just default back to what the law is? Isn't it 2 feet from a driveway?
4 feet.
4
4
feet,
feet.
okay. So I mean, even without, I mean, I know with snowbanks right now, it is hard to know where to park because there is no yellow lines. But, I mean,
If they don't have common sense.
Driveway.
yeah.
Get out and look.
a driveway's a driveway.
Right, and you can't park on top of one.
Even before the melt that we had last weekend, Public Works has done an adamant job of pushing back to the curbs and removing snow from that area. It started last year. There's nothing more we can do except aside from jumping the curb and taking snow off of and away. It's,
No.
it-
And if I could say one thing, the reason why the ticket was issued is because a village resident complained because the car was parked
In their driveway.
at
Front of
their,
their driveway.
at their driveway. And it was a first responder to be able to try to be able to get in and out of the driveway. He wasn't gonna be able to if need be. So we were called for a complaint for somebody who was parked to the driveway. So we were addressing the needs and the concerns of our village residents.
Okay. I just want to make clear, I'm not saying, by bringing this up, I don't think anybody is thinking someone's not doing their job and they're not providing the service adequately. They're just, as business owners, I can understand that they're just frustrated because their customers, if something, it's not in their hands, right? And it's not any fault of theirs, but when somebody comes in and complains, it comes back to them regardless of whether they have, they don't have a hand in it at all.
Yeah.
And
But we
Bob and
can't
Jerry are
control
paying the
One
tickets.
person though.
So-
And that's just it. We went back, Julie and I had Julie run the reports. We went back to November 15th when the winter parking ordinance starts, okay? To current, which was this week, Wednesday. Yesterday, I had to run that from there to there. We had no parking tickets issued on Dewey, no parking tickets issued on Mill. We had one parking ticket issued on Nash at that driveway because of a village resident complaining. We had one parking complaint, no ticket issued. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Somebody had some roof work done. They moved their vehicle so that the delivery truck could get close enough to the house. Then he immediately moved his vehicle back out of where it was supposed to be. And then there was one other, and I can't tell you if there was a parking ticket or not. We've issued 5 parking tickets over by the Nash and Nye where the no parking signs were put up because people are parking on top of the stop signs and people are parking around the corner. We also had 1 parking ticket because somebody parked on the railroad tracks. Those are, it's not like we are actively searching for violations, but when somebody calls that's a village resident and they're complaining because people are parking them in their driveways, you have to respond.
I don't think there's anything we can do with this.
No.
It's
Well,
just, it's what it is.
I mean,
I think it's just something that, they wanted to have brought up to see if there were any other ideas of any other ways that we could deal with it within the boundaries of what we have already.
It's just an
Yeah,
unfortunate situation
I
with limited
agree.
parking, so,
I don't know.
I mean, that person didn't have to park there, they could have parked
They
anywhere
could have bought
along.
that land across the street and put a parking lot in there. They don't really have much of a parking lot for a business that size.
So I'm saying, there's nothing we can do about that, so, unless they did something about it, so. I just don't think there's much that we can do.
Okay. Well, I don't have any ideas myself as to anything that we can do differently. I would suggest the only thing that we could maybe do is if they come to us in the future and have an idea to try to make things, more workable, that we work with them. That's the only suggestion that I really have.
I agree, yeah.
It's unfortunate
Am I allowed to
that They can't be here.
something? Am I allowed to ask some?
Absolutely.
A lot
What
of
would you like to
hesitation there, I
say?
don't know. Did you say they're paying the tickets for these folks?
They have been, yes.
Why do they feel obligated to do that, or didn't they say?
Well, I can't speak to reading their mind, but I can tell you as a business owner, if a customer, if I have a customer that is $1,000 customer, and they came into my store, and they were harassed out in the parking lot, and ended up getting a ticket, that was a $20 ticket, and they said, I'm never coming back again, you know, this is BS, I'm never,
They
yeah,
weren't
I'm gonna tell,
harassed.
They weren't
I
harassed.
understand, I'm
That's the
just,
way it sounds.
I'm addressing his,
Okay.
I'm not, I'm a scenario, hypothetical, okay?
But I just wanna
'Cause-
clarify, they weren't being harassed, so, yeah.
No, they were, this is the, okay, I'm going from the scenario of the person coming, my customer coming up to me saying, you know, hey, I thought I was, because everybody always thinks they're in the right. It doesn't, you know, it's difficult to prove to anybody that they're in the wrong. So if one of my customers, $1,000 customer, and he comes up to me and he says, you know, I was 2 inches on the line for the handicap spot, and I got a ticket, I'm never coming back here again, and I'm telling everybody that I know that you can't go park in that parking lot to go to that business because they're gonna get tickets. That's not the reality. But to them, that's the reality, and to me as the business owner, I'm looking at it like, I'm out $1,000 customer. I'll pay the $20 ticket. So, like I said, I can't read the mind of Bob and Jerry, but I would assume that their mental process is fairly similar. You know, I've eaten at Blackwater, I know what my bill is, and, you know, if for every customer that you lose, whether it's your fault or not, you usually don't just lose that customer. They will usually go out, every bad review that you get, or every unhappy customer, they'll tell 10 people. Every happy customer typically tells between 3 and 4. So it's in the business's best interest to solve that problem somehow, and try to placate the complaint, right or wrong, but it's in their best interest as a business. So I suspect that's probably why, but like I said, that's my perspective on if it was my business and somebody did that at my shop. And I'm not saying that they're being harassed. I'm saying this is the perspective of, you know what the lady said when she called you guys, right? She wasn't reasonable, it wasn't a reasonable conversation to have with this person, from my understanding.
Do you know if she had contested the ticket in the court? Like when
She was given that option, we tried to explain to her how that would be done, and she told me she didn't want that information.
So she didn't take the option to contest it, that was the process, okay.
Yeah, but that, I mean, that would be the reasoning, you know, if that would be the reasoning for us having the discussion in the first place, is because even though Blackwater has nothing to do with it, they have nothing to do with the parking. They every time that I've had conversations with Bob about parking, he's like, yeah, they shouldn't be parking there. You know, because I talked to him about the Nash, or the Mill Street parking, and I talked to him, because I see Bob every Tuesday, I shoot pool with him. And about when we painted the yellow lines, he's like, yeah, you shouldn't be parking there. He's like, all right, yeah, that's fine, go. I got no complaints about it, but they're still on the hook when it comes to keeping the customers happy.
I think then we should just move on,
Yep.
since they couldn't attend tonight. If they have more issues and want to come back again, we can always bring it forward again, but right now, I just don't think there's any more discussion.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for the explanation.
Oh, sure. Sorry it was so long.
B is Halloween trick-or-treat date, time discussion.
This is simple. Halloween.
David, could you use it? I can't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Halloween, better? Halloween falls on a Saturday this year, so for the sake of the Village Voice publication, which will be in April, we'd like to have discussion on whether or not we could go to Saturday for the trick-or-treating. 3 to 5, same as last year. And I guess if there's any conversation in the matter.
I'm all for it.
As a parent, I love the idea of Saturday versus Sunday.
It's not during the Packer game. I'm all for it.
I think we should do it.
Okay.
Do you need a motion, or do We do a
We'll do
proclamation later.
we'll do a formal proclamation. We just wanted to get in advance of the Village Voice that comes out in April, so we can give the direction in the publication.
Does everyone think that's a good idea?
Okay.
Okay,
But there
then
will be a
we'll-
formal proclamation coming out
Yeah.
later on. Okay?
Then we'll move forward with it. C is municipal court discussion.
Okay, again, why this is on the agenda, I had a conversation with Jean on Monday. Norm had made the comment to Jeannie that she wished that Christina had more time to complete her tasks in the municipal court. So Jean and I had a conversation when she was in signing documents, and I said, why don't we put it on the agenda and invite the judge and Christina to come and talk, which I did on Tuesday morning. Obviously, they're not in attendance. What I was going to propose was to start the conversation of the task force that we had started in November. It's now February, so 4 months later, to work on best practices. So they can't come back later and say, hey, we're not getting anything done. That we have the opportunity to set up a task force to work with them so we can get the results that we're looking for from the village's end. There are other options available that I have given them in June of last year. I'm not sure if we're a party to tell them what to do, but I know we had talked about the task force, so I was hoping that we could start that conversation again. Again, I think just like the first ticket, we're not going to have any further discussion because they're not here to talk, so it's kind of a null and void.
What do you need from us? Do you need someone to extend a hand, extend that?
It's
that
going to
branch?
be more on Norb. He's got to want to take
Okay.
the advice and the direction. I personally reached out to New London. I know that I asked them, Lori Shaw, who's their judge, what the best practices they used, because they were in a similar situation with a backlog of debt, and they don't have that problem anymore. So they have twice the caseload, they do half the time, and they're making 3 to 4 times as much as the villages here. So it can be fixed, it's just that he's got to be willing to take advice and work with somebody to fix the problem. So that's where the task force would come in, and just looking for that solution in the matter.
Should we assign someone to a task force
That's at your direction. I
to
mean,
work with, do you want to be involved with it, or do you want Norb and Christina to meet with, say if I would direct Julie and Dan to,
I have no
Be a part of
direction.
it?
I can't give him any, I have nothing in his department. I have no control of the department. Similar to the library, so it's out of,
It might be a good start, not
Keeping him out of that.
for now, and then eventually meld the two back together.
absolutely. Okay. So that would be at your advice, what you want to do to figure out a situation.
would you be able to give them some ideas? Did you get some ideas from
Absolutely.
New London
Yes.
and other
Yes.
places
Yes.
that you could give them some ideas to help them out, to
Yes.
have them take something forward?
Absolutely.
Then
Yep.
we could possibly try and set something up sometime with Norb and Christina? Okay, are you willing to
Like
do
a
that, Julie?
collaborative meeting, yeah.
And then I'll talk to Dan also.
Yep.
All
Let me
right,
know.
then we'll go ahead with that. D is
Someone
R
from the
dash
police
three
department on there
dash,
too? Or
No.
pardon?
She asked if somebody
would someone on the police department be on that also, or do you, would that be appropriate?
No,
Chris?
not appropriate at all.
No.
No,
I wouldn't
because
think,
there's a separation of police and court,
Okay,
so I don't think that somebody from the police department should be involved.
Yeah, they couldn't make a recommendation.
no, I would think
That
it just, if
wouldn't be a
we have
conflict.
2 board members, that's not overkill, and yet I feel we could maybe move forward with some suggestions.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Collaboration. Yeah. Start somewhere.
we're all good with that then? Okay. Then we'll do D, R dash 3 dash 20, new board member packet policy amendment.
Nathan, you want this microphone?
thank you.
So last year, we created a new board member packet that we would hand to people. while searching through our current organization of our files, we found a file with titled policies. And basically, we're creating a manual now that we will actually have for all of our employees that have those policies in it. It's different than the employee,
Handles.
yeah, correct. It's different than that. It's just policies on how the government should be run that were passed, and I think there's some from 2014 and then some from 98, and so we're kind of going through those now. And so there'll be more of them on the agendas coming forward, but this is just to add that into the new board member packet once we have it completed.
A lot of this deals with the organization and the changes in the ordinance code book. We're finding things that we're gonna have a lot of housekeeping moving forward, so bear with us. There's gonna be a lot of vanilla type changes here, so.
Understood. So you're looking for a motion for this resolution. So what's listed here is not necessarily what's part of the packet, or is that?
So the current one, if you're looking at the current one,
Yeah,
that's what we have so far. The only thing we're adding is the policy manual,
okay,
which is part of R 3-20.
okay. So you're looking for a motion to approve R-3-20?
Correct.
Then I will make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I'm sorry.
Just a little late.
It's okay. E is R-4-20, General Fund Balance Policy Amendment.
So this is one of the policies that we found. Basically, one thing we were gonna edit on it is after you achieve fund balance maximum, and there's maximum and minimum. So when our fund balance hits that 35% maximum, anything over that amount gets split 50% to future projects, and then 50% to levy stabilization, emergency response, or emergency issues. So basically what we would be doing would be removing levy stabilization and emergency response. So it'd be 50% future projects, 50% goes back into fund balance, which is technically your emergency response stuff. So that would be emergency issues like a tornado or something. Anyway, that's the point of it's basically the fund balance, the 30 to 35% is meant to have us be safe if we ended up having an issue here with accessing banks or whatever, or not banks, but accessing funds for stuff, basically is what it is.
So is the point of this really just to stop the specific line item thing like we did on the other ones and make it more of a general fund
Correct.
from an
The
administrative
levy
perspective?
stabilization thing doesn't necessarily matter as much because basically any type of levy stabilization, you're gonna take from fund balance anyway. Any type of emergency situation, you're gonna take from fund balance anyway.
We're just trying to generalize it more.
So,
it-
correct. So then in the future, if we had something that we wanted to change that to, we wouldn't have it
No
tied
red
up.
tape to go through.
Correct. And then, so basically, the handout I gave you just shows us kind of where we're at. We had those 2 loans that we took out to ourselves this year with the TIDs, that we loaned to the TIDs, basically, so we would get in interest back. So basically, our village total is up there, and then the village assigned is basically our reserve funds. And so the unassigned is right there too, the 259,000. And then up top, you'll see 2019's numbers and where we should be between 30 and 35%, and 2020's numbers between 30 and 35%. Basically, what would add to our unassigned numbers are these debt numbers here. The county grant, which we're expecting to get sometime soon, which has been promised to us. And then some special assessments.
So I can understand this, the very top is what we should be at. And
According to
then,
this policy, yes.
okay, and then where we're currently at, just so that I can understand this.
Is the
Nathan.
259,968.7.
Okay,
So,
With the grant and the assessment, you're right around 5?
we're still a quarter of a mil short, but
Yeah.
when we did Grandview projects, the reason we paid cash out of that was to save $300,000 in interest. We know we're gonna be low, we drew down our checkbook,
Yeah.
we'll
But-
be fine. And I think at the time, we told the board if something happened, we could always go back at the TIDs and get that money and put it back in our, but to save $300,000 is a big deal. We always got a fallback plan. We'll be
Yeah.
fine, Nathan's right, we need to build that back up and to stop using that, so.
Basically, if we don't use any fund balance this year, which is on the right-hand side here, we'll just be 170 off.
Okay.
And then going forward, basically our debt schedules for TID 3 and 4 can be sped up if we need to, based on the amount of taxes that they actually bring in.
So the minimum is just kind of a recommendation, and the maximum is if we hit that, then we start taking money out and shuffling it around.
We'll
Is
still
my
have
understanding,
extra
right?
money. Like when you get to downtown, if this SV Swiderski and all that falls through, that's gonna free up about $1 million that you can bank on for downtown. These minimum payments are stretched throughout the life of the TID, but we can certainly expedite that.
Yeah,
But it doesn't matter, because if we were making these payments to ourselves, there's still extra money that's going in our bank account.
but
So,
what I'm just
He's
concerned.
getting at the 30 to 35%.
Yeah, I'm at the
Yeah.
30 to 35, so there's no trigger if we go below the 30.
No.
But the
It's-
35 is a trigger that says, that's what we're saying here, is if we get above 35%, then it gets distributed to these other
Correct.
different
Going
funds.
below 30 usually would just need a majority vote.
Yeah.
And notification when we found that, yeah.
and
So,
change.
in addition to Grandview, what else have we spent fund balance on this year?
Brookwood.
Brookwood?
Yep.
So all in all, I think if you looked at 1.2 million, we would have never got Grandview done. As we know, that's been on our hot list for 40 years. I'd say $300,000 easy, we saved in going out and getting a note for that. And we were able to do it within our current rate structure. We just drew it down a little bit more. Sometimes you do it at home when you spend your bank account down a little bit. We always have the ability to get that money back out of the TID if push came to shove.
So when Kerber Rose does their audit, and every year, I've heard the same thing over and
Which
over
is
again.
surprising, because we had all that money sitting in there, so.
Every year, Kerber Rose says, make sure that you should be increasing your fund balance, you should be increasing.
They tell
Are
that
they
to
gonna
everybody.
tell us that a little heavier this year? Are we?
Yeah, we might get scolded.
Because looking at the last 2 years of audit, I think, yeah, we're gonna get scolded.
Yeah.
Yeah, by Kerber Rose. So, from this point forward, any other uses of fund balance, not to micromanage, but any pieces that come out of that fund balance, does that go through the board, or can little trickles
Not
of?
all. Oh, no, we don't nickel and dime it, no. We don't have,
Everything has to go through the board if it's taken from fund balance.
Everything,
the only
okay,
thing that doesn't is what you pre-approved in the budget.
okay,
But Grandview, yeah, like I said, at the time, I don't know, sometimes, I'm not saying we don't pay attention, but I think we kind of explained all that at the time, but yeah, we certainly can't spend reserve money. It would be unethical and illegal, so.
so the $40,000, 182, fund balance 2020 budget, what is the plan for that?
That was a role that we had built into the budget.
Okay.
That was already there.
Okay, so that was money going into this fund balance, not coming out.
Opposite. It was coming out of, technically it's roll from the year, but the way the audit works is you can't just take fund balance out of some random savings. It's gotta come through Fund 100. So basically, it's gonna be shown as a negative, the 40,000 for this year's budget, added in as a revenue on this year's budget. Because that's already assigned outside of it's assigned from fund, it's pretty much fund balance into the budget.
Okay, so then looking at the left, so I can understand this, expenses outside of the budget, it's got Public Works Garage and Grandview, so then that list should also have Brookwood on there.
No,
No,
that's what we're gonna be out in the end, from this last year. So
Okay.
basically, Grandview, we would only lose 80 based on the whole project in general, because that's
Okay.
what the village's portion was. The amount that's owed, that is gonna be coming into us no matter what. That's why Brookwood isn't on there, because we're getting 100% back, because the TID's paying for it.
okay,
Yeah.
So the only true expenditures that the village took for fund balance would be the Grandview project and the Public Works garage, totaling $133,000. The rest have a repayment plan that will come in time.
Okay.
Did we buy the properties for the
That's
vans
TID,
thing?
TID driven.
That was TID driven, okay.
Okay, and then, so when Kerber Rose does their audit, they'll clearly see what the expenditures were
Yes.
on there?
That was part of the problem. We never had a repayment plan established prior. So that was, I can actually cite the page, it was page 34 on last year's audit. It said we need a repayment plan for these. Some of the monies were borrowed from, I believe it's 34, top of the page.
Notes to financial statement.
Correct. I can show you, Julie.
Okay, yeah.
So essentially what it was is we have now established a payment plan for any debts that the village has borrowed to either a TID or the utility, and have a payment plan that we use in the budgeting cycle to put back into the proper accounts.
They may slap our hands for this general fund thing, but they're also gonna like that. And that
Correct.
the
The repayment plan.
and that the
Correct.
interest is way down, so.
Correct.
We had to do it some way to balance that out, so.
I
they'll
understand
slap
that.
us on one side and pat us on the back on
Essentially,
the other.
the biggest way to look at this is it matters to
That's how it
two people.
works.
It matters to two people. It matters to an auditor, and it matters to a rating, Standard & Poor's rating. And the reason that rating matters is if you're borrowing money like a major municipality where you're going out and buying millions of dollars every year and you're refinancing every year. The village does not do that. So essentially, we made an aggressive move to save money on the long end, and we're just gonna pay it back in the next 2 years. Instead of taking it from a bank and spending $300,000 on the interest.
I just needed to understand, because
Yeah,
I know when
yeah.
Kerber Rose comes, they've said the same thing
Absolutely.
over and over again. And I
I'm,
just-
I'm not getting aggressive, I'm just pulling back to here. So,
Okay.
might sound like I'm getting
Like I said, they're
angry.
gonna slap our
They're gonna
hands
slap
on
our
one
wrists.
side, and they're gonna say, good job on the other side, so,
Yeah.
you had to
So-
balance it somehow.
So what are you asking on the policy, Nathan? What, or whoever, I don't know who answers this question.
It's R-0420, it's a language change that would take, old language, take the levy stabilization / emergency reserve fund
Fund
out
balance.
and add fund balance, so it's a
Okay.
change in language essentially, but we wanted to clarify the current fund balance.
Okay,
Essentially, it'll just push us close, and once we hit that 35 mark, if our expenditures increase 1 year, because every year they typically increase in general, then that next year, we're gonna hit that 35% quicker than we would splitting it. So basically, it's gonna increase the amount that we'll end up be giving every year to the future projects fund.
It's moving us closer to the 30%.
I get that. So then the other thing is, so it always has to go to the board if we're using fund balance.
Correct.
Okay,
And
Alright.
everything has been approved by you guys, so.
all right, that's what I need to know.
I'll make a motion to approve R-4-20 general fund balance policy amendment.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You know what, I have to abstain, because I can't hear.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Motion carried.
Do we have a, well, do we have-
Okay.
Just do like I do, read lips. I can't hear hardly anything you mean.
Tinnitus or what?
What's that?
Tinnitus?
Sometimes, yeah.
We'll move to F, R-5-20, village condolences, celebrations of employee events policy.
This has been a policy in there that the village has actually done for a while, but it was nothing ever really in writing for some reason. So basically, we just want to, anytime we're spending any money for anything, we kind of want to get blessings from our board in general. Basically, what this policy is anytime there's a death in the family of the employee, we send them a $50 max of flowers to the funerals. Or sometimes gift cards, depending on what the circumstances are. And the policy's in front of you. The only thing we changed on it compared to what the memo said was giving, basically what it would do is it would give the administrator and department heads the ability to approve purchases depending on family situations. Because not everyone's parents are their primary guardian, and not everyone's grandparents aren't their because some people, your parents might be different to you than someone's grandparents might have raised them. That's the only difference.
Okay.
So that would be up to the discretion of the department head and the administrator, whether to pay it for the $50 gift certificate, or flowers, sorry.
Okay. So you're looking for a motion, or to let you question
Yes.
John?
I just assume that person's going to be bringing it to us anyway, so, right?
No,
What's that? So there, this is just saying that they can do it without having board approval, okay?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. Like for $50, that's crazy.
sometimes, most times the funerals are so quick, we don't have time to bring it to the board.
That's
to
what I'm
tell
saying,
them.
$50 is crazy every
They
time
s-
someone has a
yeah.
baby or passes away, it's crazy.
The money's in a line item in the budget.
It is, but we
We've
just
had
want
that in
some
there for
formal,
years.
yeah,
This is just formalizing it?
pretty much,
Yes.
yeah.
Where does that, okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve R-5-20, resolution adopting village condolences celebrations policy.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. G, essential records disaster recovery policy.
This policy was created after the tornado. Part of it is understandable, we understand it. We think some of it needs to be changed. We're not asking for a change tonight, we're getting your input on it. Basically, within that policy, it states the different types of records that you guys want backed up at a physical location. We currently have a digital backup through our software provider and our IT people that we do it. So it's backed up through their process at their location. So we were just gonna change some language in that. But when it came to the history documents, I guess we needed more direction on what that entails. Because it says historical documents to save and make copies of and have at our secondary locations. Yeah, so I don't know.
So when you think of historical documents, I think of what you might have, the cemetery records. That's a cemetery, that's a historical document, however, it's also reference of where everybody's buried in Union Cemetery, right? But you have an electronic version of that, which is partial, yeah, it's,
Because, I mean, scanning all that stuff would take a long
Yeah.
time, but, I mean, it can be done, it just, we kind of wanted, we didn't know if it was that, how many of the maps you guys wanted copies of at a secondary location, or what.
but everything else generally that is like that, isn't that normally kept in
Yeah.
the vault?
How much time?
Hmm?
How much time are you talking?
For scanning of those documents,
Yeah,
We
Um,
have books and books of.
well, we have about 15 to 16 different old books of just the cemetery stuff. And then tons of little cards and letters, and I don't know, there's like two whole.
There's grants out there for that, but, yeah.
Yeah,
but, you know, the way I see it, if you were to, if you wanted to destroy the records, you'd have to contact the state historical.
yeah.
Give them an opportunity to decide if they felt there was anything in them
Mhm.
to save, correct?
Yeah.
So when you think of that, I mean, you know, without going to them, you know, arguably, all of the documents are preferable to retain if we could. I mean, that's why I asked the question, is how much time? There's a rule of reason within that, though. I mean, I'm not suggesting that everything, but my overlying concern is that everything we have by state law is historical and is to be retained. And if we are to get rid of it, an opportunity is to be given to the state to
Yeah.
save those documents.
And they will. The other thing I think of too is the other day when the developer Swiderski was asking questions about a building that might have potentially been somewhere. And I was able to help them with some older maps and that sort of thing. There could be some kind of record within the village records that may have had some kind of building on that plot. So I guess I agree with you. But you're not doing anything with the records, you're just asking if we need to keep a secondary set somewhere else.
Correct.
Right,
'Cause,
just back up.
You can't get rid of maps, you can't get rid of cemetery
Yeah.
stuff.
So, I mean, we're not required to have a backup. If we had a loss, it's through no fault of us. We're not gonna get into trouble. Just maybe we have to make a judgment as to what records are really worthy of spending the time and money to do the backup.
The vault itself has a 4-hour burn time, so, and it's waterproof for the most part, so. Everything, we try to keep everything important in there, right?
Try to, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we're not in terrible shape.
It's just that if we could obtain, and I just think of the State Historical Society, there are archivists out there who would come and scan all of that. Just to have State Historical Society, just to have some of that information too, yeah.
I'm not even sure what we do with it if they did. I'm not gonna look through all of it.
No, but
We're not gonna look.
there are people who would, and so, yeah, I know, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's maybe for another day discussion, but for right now, nothing's happening to the documents and stuff, it's just,
Mhm.
yeah.
If we ever get somewhere where we can keep us, you know, your documents and all that stuff in that organization, maybe at that time.
Mhm.
So you're looking for like a recommendation for changes to whether or not we're gonna create secondary copies of these or not?
I mean, doesn't have to be a vote tonight.
No, I'm
Or
just looking for recommendation as to how to change
I
it.
just wanted
Yeah,
input
there's-
because there was no direction. It was a pretty vague policy.
Yeah,
So that was what I was looking for, was just more some direction. If I don't get any, that's fine. I can move on to a different policy for now. We can come back to it at another meeting
We
or
can
something.
revisit it.
Can you look
Yeah,
in to see
I
what
think-
other people are doing now? I mean,
I mean, yeah, I can.
it kinda seems to me that we're already taking reasonable steps to
Yeah.
protect the documents.
Yep.
I mean, making copies of historical documents, you know, I mean, maybe some that would be, you know, that you could, you know, 'cause you could make a list of what you have and somebody could say, okay, well, somebody may wanna look at this someday. But other than that, you know, I would suggest just taking reasonable steps. That would be to protect the documents the way that they are now, and it sounds like we're already doing that.
Yeah.
That would be my direction.
We will then move on. If we need to bring it up again, we will. H is appointment of Joanne Mueller to the Senior Activities Committee. I just need a motion to accept her.
I'll make the motion to appoint Joanne Miller to the Senior Activities Committee.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussions?
Actually, I have, maybe a potential suggestion. Sorry, wait, what am I doing?
That's
this?
mine.
Oh, this yours, okay, sorry. I think that in the way that information is changing and how we communicate, maybe we should look at, if we don't already have a policy in place for, right now we can have people come and sign up for 5 minutes to talk. I would suggest that, you know, we look at and say, is there a way that we can have people submit a statement that can be read into the record? Are there alternatives to having somebody come sit in the meeting that has something that they want to be presented to the board? Just in an attempt to make it easier for the community to give feedback on things. I know we're all pretty open to receiving feedback from people, but that doesn't get put in front of put in front of the whole board. So maybe as a future discussion item, I think that's where we're at. Anybody
Do you have anything on that?
understand what I'm saying?
No, I mean,
I don't think, I mean, in the other municipalities I've worked in the past, they have read on the record, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It's happened
Yeah, I
here
mean-
before.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't
it's
just
happened
don't-
on occasion. I don't think we formalized that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying,
Somebody would give something to someone and we'd read it into the record.
yeah,
but-
I mean, I
They
think
can
we
submit
should
electronically.
have
But
some
this
sort
you
of.
you almost want to put, I think you're suggesting maybe put it in the village
Yeah,
voice, get it
some-
out there.
yeah, well,
that-
develop an idea
If you
and a
have
policy
a-
and then
yeah.
get that information out that there's other
Or a
ways other than
mailbox
sitting.
that you send
Yeah,
that to.
exactly.
Yeah.
I would suggest that, well, I guess we don't get into specifics yet. Yeah.
Right.
Put it
But I
in
would
there.
suggest that we put that on for an agenda item to discuss.
Are there any others? If not, we'll move to 9, report of village officials, administrator.
Okay, everybody, it did come around, the report that I've prepared. Happy to report, Bob, I'm gonna send you this tomorrow. Richard Kinnison has completed his replot of the West Wind subdivision. This is a subdivision that started in 2003, and it has been delayed twice, once for the economy and then a second time with another slowdown. We have been working with the DNR as well as Dabble Engineering to replat this subdivision. We're gonna have some work, we're gonna do some street vacations, so I'll send that tomorrow, Bob. But the long story short is we're looking to reclaim 19 lots that are very, very valuable to the village. So these are all R2 developments in the Horton Hills Westwood subdivision. Our planning and zoning meeting is scheduled for next week, Tuesday. As a reminder to all of you, 6 o'clock for the SC Swiderski proposal. Community development, Carl and I did meet with Keller Structures last week on the first look of the Senior Activity Center. It was good, not great. We sent it back with some more recommendations. That should be in our hands by Monday. They're also working on the costing side of that, so that'll be another one that we'll reveal to all of you, and then put it out for other solicitations, other groups that want to put input into that project as well. We did do a long-term lease with the Appleton Alliance Church. It's not a lease, it's a rental. They've committed, starting in July through December, to take Sundays at the Opera House. They're essentially trying to establish their second location for their congregation. So they're working with Nathan on that. Just today, we did formalize with MSA. They are working in partnership with East Central Regional Planning Commission on the village's outdoor comprehensive plan. We are still not sure what we're going to see with the multimodal grants, but what we are going to try to do is continue the grant work process for our downtown revitalization and other processes.
Can I ask you a question about, doesn't East Central Wisconsin, don't they have some kind of, don't they pick a project every year that they do at no cost to municipalities?
There is absolutely no freebies with East Central Regional Planning anymore.
Sure, well, we used to.
Not
We
anymore.
did the downtown zoning.
But they just had this in the newspaper that they were stopping this.
Yeah, they actually, their service tickets is what they used to call them.
Yeah.
That's no longer.
Okay,
Minimum, we actually just
They
paid
just
that.
voted on it.
Yeah, it was a $3,500 stipend last board meeting. That's pretty much the minimum now.
okay.
So, outside meetings, Fox Cities Chamber of Commerce met the new executive director, Jamie Sullivan, last week. Also met with the Legion Post last week, 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. I did attend a Connect Community for our downtown revitalization in Berlin, also on the 23rd. Carl and I met with McMahon Engineering as we're starting the process for all of our road work for 2020. The summer months coming up here. Regular monthly fire department meeting last night. Also met with Hortonville Youth Sports last night for the 2020 baseball softball season. In the Fox West Chamber meeting today in Grand Chute. Any questions?
I have a question. I don't know if Julie already asked this. If you did, I apologize. But how does this impact weekend rentals for the church?
The way the policy was written is a weekend rental is Friday from 6 p.m. till Sunday at 6 p.m. As of this point, from moving forward from July until December, we had affected two of the rentals. So we had nothing else on the books. So the way it is it's blocked out now for that Sunday. So they can actually rent Friday night, Saturday night, but it's technically blocked out now.
What time is the service on Sunday?
It's 8 o'clock, I believe, right?
Yeah, a little earlier. I think it's 7.
So what did we do with the 2 people that did have it for the full weekend? Are they still,
Did they need actually Sunday, or they
They
took the
the
weekend?
church agreed to a blackout, so they're not gonna have service that day.
okay, perfect.
The Swinderski Hortonville review, was there any other information put forward in that? I wasn't able to attend, so.
They went through their entire process. They talked about their whole program, all the rentals, everything. I mean, I can get it. It's also gonna be redone at the planning and zoning meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
Scott will be here to talk and answer any questions.
Okay.
I have a question on the planning and zoning.
Yes.
if other board members want to attend, can we just post a quorum? Are they allowed
Yes,
to?
absolutely,
Could we please do that?
yes.
Yeah, if you know
I
you're,
was
if you know
asked by
you're,
Peter
Yeah.
if he would like to attend, and
If-
anyone else.
right, if you know you're gonna attend, if you communicate that to us, because then you can just put out a quorum notice.
Any idea how long
Potential.
that's gonna be?
Well, I'm there anyway.
Yeah.
I would guess planning and zoning, unless it's something from the community, it should be, it's no time requirement, it'd be long enough to go through that plan. I'd say no more than an hour.
Okay.
It was about an hour at the last time, I believe, right?
They had PowerPoint. It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Depending on public input.
When the village decides to
Put that on the agenda.
build a new building, is there a ceiling as far as how much money can be put in that before it goes to referendum or anything like that? Okay.
So with that possible quorum and all that, can we put on the agenda for public input or some sort of area where public could?
Well, they always have input in planning and zoning.
So it doesn't matter.
They have input then, and then there's also, if planning and zoning passes it, there's gonna be a public hearing, an
Okay.
official public hearing during the village board meeting, which would be the first Thursday in March.
March
6th.
6th.
So if like Jim would, I guess what I'm getting at is to enable Jim to ask questions and interact during that meeting
There's 2 meetings people can go to and ask
Okay.
questions
for
at.
the planning and zoning, okay?
Correct.
Planning and zoning is Tuesday at 6.
Yes, February 11th, 6 PM.
Okay.
Thank you.
No other questions for Dave. We will move to B, clerk treasurer.
Can you use it? Sure. Thank you.
Okay, we conducted 2 election worker trainings, and it was well received. I'll submit the agenda and the material to the Wisconsin Elections Commission to get approved. We hope to continue to be able to do this as opposed to sending our election workers to the county for training. Our annual audit is scheduled for March 2 through 4 with Kerber Rose, and we are in the process of gathering all the field work for them. BMO Bank in Hortonville is closing on April 24th, so I'm looking at closing some of the accounts and deciding where to open the new accounts. David has been calling, gathering interest rates for various banks, so we'll keep you posted on that. It's kind of, because BMO would take water sewer payments and they would take tax payments, we're not gonna have that availability any longer. So it would just be Wolf River, which isn't the end of the world, but kind of an inconvenience. In-person absentee voting has started and will continue for the next 2 weeks, well, this week and next week, ending on Friday, February 14th at 5 p.m. And Libby has completed all of her training in WizVote, has been issued her FIDO key from Outagamie County for security, and she will be able to help with voter registrations and absentee voting while working in WizVote.
Any questions for Jane? If not, we'll move to C, Director of Public Works.
You better let me have it.
Oh, thank you.
I can still talk on this.
I just have a couple items. I want to get together for an urban forestry meeting pretty soon. I'm not sure if it's Julie or you that are on the committee.
Which one?
Urban forestry.
It was me. I
Do
don't
we
know if I
even
still
have a
am.
committee still? I don't think we do.
No, it's an informal committee. It's not a village
Okay,
committee.
I've never heard.
But
It was
it's
me.
actually a board. It's an urban forestry board. And I actually like both of you to be on it. So if there's a time, we'll email. I just want to get together during the week sometime. And the other item I have is, since the FEMA audit, both Chris and I have been updating our emergency plans and disaster toolkits and all that stuff. So we're going to be ready to go for the next tornado this summer.
So for urban forestry, Tuesdays and Thursdays work best for me.
Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What
guys
about you, Pat?
Try one more time.
Do Tuesdays and Thursdays work for a board meeting? Forestry board,
I can make it work.
all right.
It's getting worse, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. That's all I have.
Any questions for Carl?
One.
If not, we'll move to D, Police Chief.
I have passed out the service calls for January of 2020. Any questions on that? Parking tickets, it says 128. We're instructed by the school district to run through the parking lot. What's happening is they're running out of parking stalls. It's not like we have any local businesses that are using the school parking lot. However, I think what's happening is they have several students from families that are taking multiple vehicles, so they're gonna be looking at some different things. They had a lot of students who did not have parking passes, so therefore, they asked us to go through. One day we issued 91 parking tickets.
That's an $1,800 revenue for the village.
Considering what I paid for that parking permit for my
We should
kid.
just do that every day. I mean,
I
that
should pay it.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is they're giving them
It's gonna be a
the
lottery
option-
system.
the option to get the parking passes, and then from that point forward, if they don't have them displayed, they're gonna have to come up with a plan, because they're parking in the yellow lines. The the delivery trucks can't get through the parking lots, so they're gonna have to take a better look at the parking situation there. Any other questions on?
What's ODC and scam?
OD is overdose,
Oh, okay.
and scam is somebody came to the police department or called stating that they were scammed. Somebody trying to get money from them. That brings up my second topic. I did a presentation on Monday for the seniors luncheon. We had roughly, 20, 24 people there. We did handouts, letting them know the top 20 scams that we're looking at for 2020. Lots of questions. It was good. We passed out the information for emergency management, hoping that we can get more people into that program to sign up so that they can get the texts, the phone calls, or the emails concerning any kind of like shelter in place or bad weather, anything like that, so. We have been, we're gonna add a girl or add a department. The Wisconsin Department of Justice sent us a letter stating that we have met the requirements and we are now a certified reporting agency for Wisconsin Incident-Based Reporting System. That's huge. Basically, what we were doing is in the last year for 2019, we were in the training stage. We were submitting a lot of numbers. It was a lot of work for Julie. Julie did a wonderful job getting us on board. And then we proved that, that we could do this. And so what we do is the numbers that we submit to the state is crime data that's collected by any of the law enforcement community, and then that's how they determine different organizations and things that they need for the state. So that was huge. On last week Friday, Jane and I had a phone conference with Destiny from FEMA. We're at the final stage there. It looks like we are going to receive $14,332.09 from FEMA, $2,388.68. It's a 12%, a 75%, and a 12.5% for a total of $16,720.77. Currently, what we're working on this week is a manager fee. So Carl, Jane, and I can document our hours that we've put in, and then we can be reimbursed for that too.
So I think we're one of the first agencies, she said, to get everything completed. Any questions?
No questions? Then we will move on to E, Library Director.
All right, so the first item on here is open positions. I can send this around. The Library Board Personnel Committee and the Library Board met on the 28th. We currently had our full-time employee find a job elsewhere. So we had a lot of hours that are currently unfilled. So the library board approved splitting one full-time position into 2 part-time positions. So we are currently accepting applications for these 2 20-hour positions instead of having one full-time position. So applications are currently open. We've had at least 6 people turn materials in, and it was just posted last Wednesday. So I passed around the employment opportunity posting that we posted so that if anybody knows of anybody, the best applications come from word of mouth, people who know people, and users of the library, things like that. So then I also am touching on upcoming programming. We have some UW Extension programs coming up. This coming Monday is Money Matters, so we have a good amount of people signed up for that. Basic budgeting is going to be covered. And we have a whole range of people signed up. So we're really hoping to hit all the different demographics that can benefit from that. Some of the options that we have for upcoming programming through UW Extension is managing stress and sleep benefits, and that one would be actually led by a doctor in a surrounding community. What sleep benefits can do for you based on how much you rest, how you actually rest, things like that. And there have been quite a few books on the bestsellers list recently that touch on this topic, so it's definitely something that people are interested in. And then another option is caregiver chats, something that we're seeing a lot more in the community, or people who are caring for aging parents or parents in hospice who would like to get more opportunities and resources for touching base with other caregivers who, I mean, there are very distinct struggles that caregivers go through. So having opportunities and resources for them to find some more of that connection with others in the community would be a good program that we were looking to have. Any questions?
If there's no questions for Ally, we will move to F, Attorney.
I would report that the Schilling property.
Thank you.
Speak louder about this one, Bob.
The Schilling property was sold. The order confirming the sale is set for February 17th. So probably, after that, they pay the balance, so probably by March, unless this buyer backs out, that will be in private ownership again. The high bidder was actually BK Investments. It's a company out of New Holstein. Randy Breckheimer is the registered agent for that LLC. So that's all I have to report.
Any other questions for Bob? We'll move to G, Building Permit Report, and it is presented in the packet. H is Municipal Court Report, and there is none. 10, Communications and Miscellaneous Business. A, Black Otter Lake District News. Pat?
Okay, we had a meeting on the 22nd. We approved the installation of a joystick on the harvester, and the dash removal came up. They removed 4,149 pounds of invasives last year, and they will be continuing their work this year. That's it.
Okay. B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News.
Just a regular meeting last night. I am now party to 3 crash accidents that we'll be sending out bills for as part of the new process for claiming recuperating costs. So those are in process as we speak. That's all they had for me.
So Dave, how are those being processed?
They
They get them to you.
Correct, and then we built a billing format. We send it out initially to the actual person of the accident,
Yeah.
give them a timeline, or they can submit it to their insurance company. Our second attempt would be either to their insurance company, also on a timeline. If we don't receive anything, then we can either go to the state or the county if it's on a county or state highway.
To be
To be recouped, yes.
Okay. And then Nate's gonna be doing that, or?
It's gonna be, I did all the legwork so far. I built the form and it's sitting on my
Okay.
desktop, so
Very good.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
C is Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News. It's in the packet. Are there any questions? D, Hortonville Civic Association, and Peter is out. E, Senior Activities Committee, Pat?
Okay, there's a new meal site manager at the meal site at the Opera House. Her name is Lisa Springstroh. She drives from Freedom, so I'm hoping she'll stay with us, but that is very nice. She came to our last meeting. They do have room for more home-delivered meals too, so it's something to keep in mind if you know of anybody who is homebound. They can take up to 28 people, and I think they're only doing 12 now. February 17th, we're gonna have the birthday party at the Opera House because of the elections on the 18th here. And there's a group from the high school coming to provide some music. So we're gonna have the meal and then the birthday party. So trying to piggyback to build the numbers. Thank you, Chris, for coming on Monday. I appreciate it. I wasn't there, but I appreciate it. We have a subcommittee planning some other events, and we are going to be having an advanced care planning workshop. It's an hour and a half on February 25th at the Opera House. It's free from 12 to 1:30. We're encouraging people to have a meal first and then participate in that program. At our next meeting on the 27th, we're going to do an evaluation of our committee. So that's it.
Thank you. 11, comments and suggestions from citizens present.
Could I speak for just a second about the pantry, because it wasn't on the agenda, and the pantry's in place, it is fully stocked, there is a Facebook group to help keep it maintained. If you're looking for the Facebook group, I believe it's under Little Free Pantry / Hortonville, or you can ask me to send you a link. But if you get a chance tonight on your way out, take a look. It's right by the drug drop-off spot.
I shared it as soon as I came across mine, I shared it already.
And I checked it, we've been checking it periodically. We're putting something in the Village Voice. We're also hoping just to get the word out so that people know that it's there. I know that one of the moms was working with maybe going to a PTO meeting to make sure that the school. I don't think so. I looked because I stocked it the day we brought it in. Opened it up this morning to look. I don't see anything moved. So that's a good and a bad thing because I don't know if enough people know it's there. We're hoping the Village Voice, once that announcement, people get it in their mailbox, they can open it up, they can look at the Village Voice. We're hoping that will be the kickstart to it. Otherwise, it's there.
I would
Spread the
think
word.
that's one of those things that once somebody figures out it's there and uses it the first time, then they'll keep coming
But
back.
it's ready to go. So, sorry.
And then we maybe should all note that the Village Voice deadline is March 3rd, just in case anyone needs to put anything in. 12, we'll go to motion to appoint minute taker for closed session. I would like to appoint Shauna. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 13, motion to go into closed session.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session under state statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Administrator review.
I'll second.
All in, or roll call, Shawna?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Don.
17, any action on matters discussed in closed session?
We need a
You have
motion
this
to
written out,
formalize.
do you wanna read it, or do you want me to? Okay, a recommendation,
Thanks for using the mic.
for executive committee to review, wait, is it this one and?
It's both, there's both happening, so we need to have something to have the review of the policy and then
Okay.
to establish a process for.
Okay, so action A, executive committee to review grievance policy to ensure it matches desires and needs of employees and board. And B, we also have established a process for administrator review, so it is more formalized. Those were the two recommendations coming out of that, okay.
We need a motion for something.
Motion.
I'm sorry, I thought I was making a motion. I make a
Yeah.
motion for items, what Shauna has it A and B here.
Okay,
I'll second.
roll call? Aye.
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 Okay, motion is carried. We now need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.